Is Winter Burrow worth playing? That's what I'm going to answer in this video. As always, I'll tell you right up front in case you don't want to stick around for the details. Yes, Winter Burrow is worth playing if you enjoy survival games. If that's all you wanted to know. Before you leave, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave your favorite emoji in the comments. I also have one tip for you if you decide to play the game. If you get stuck progressing, talk to each of the NPCs. For those of you that want more details on the game and want to hear what I liked and disliked, let's get into it. Before we begin, I want to thank Pine Creek Games for providing me with a review key and allowing me to say whatever I want about the game. First things first, where can you play Winter Burrow? You can play it on PC via Steam in the Windows Store. You can also play it on Xbox on the Xbox One, Series S or X. It's on Game Pass, and you can also play it on the Nintendo Switch. Next up, let's talk about performance. I played the game on PC via Steam. My PC has a RTX 4090. I have a i9 13900K CPU, and I have 64 gigabytes of RAM. I ran the game at a stable 180 FPS at 2K resolution, and during my entire time with the game, I had no crashes or performance issues. Next up, let's talk about what you can expect gameplay-wise from Winter Burrow. Winter Burrow is a cozy survival crafting exploration game. You're going to play as a mouse that returns home from the big city to find their childhood home in ruins. You're going to have to manage your health, your hunger, your warmth, and your stamina. You'll need to scavenge resources, repair your home, craft your gear, and complete quests from several different NPCs. Completing quests unlock many of the crafting recipes as well as progress you through the story, but some of the crafting recipes are also unlocked by finding hidden scrolls around the map. This makes exploration one of the most rewarding parts of the game. You never know when you're going to find a hidden little alcove that has one of those scrolls in it, or perhaps a backpack that has resources in it you may need. Exploration can also be one of the most challenging parts of the game, as there's no map. So there's no in-game map in this game. I'm directionally challenged, so that's why it made it so challenging for me. I can't tell you how many times I got lost, and while the map's not massive, it's big enough and complex enough that you can very easily get lost. So remembering where you went, where you've been, and remembering where you need to go was for me one of the most fun parts of the game. Now, along the way, you also run into several types of enemies. Some of them are passive, others are aggressive. There's also going to be obstacles that require you to upgrade your gear. Your gear consists of clothing, an axe, a pickaxe, and a shovel. Pretty basic, but also just right for the game. Gear does not lose durability. Now, if you know me, you know that one of my pet peeves with survival games is when there's oppressive durability loss in games. This game doesn't have it, and it honestly just made the game feel so much better. For crafting, you can craft items at the workbench. You'll also be able to cook many different things in the oven, and you can actually knit your clothing and other resources. There are a lot of crafting and cooking recipes to unlock, far more than I expected. You can also decorate your home with various pieces of furniture, some of which are obviously going to be the crafting things that you need, but there's also tons of furniture so you can customize your house with different types of wood, stone, and stuff like that if you're into that kind of thing. Now, survival, like I mentioned before, you're going to have to manage your health, your hunger, your warmth, and your stamina. Honestly, only one of those is really going to be challenging. Combat is pretty basic in the game, and honestly, I was never in a situation where I was even close to dying from the combat. The combat is pretty basic. You can just hit an enemy, back up, hit an enemy, back up. I found it didn't really seem to matter if using the axe or the pickaxe for which, when you're attacking enemies, they both seem to usually do the same amount of damage. So it's kind of whichever one you prefer. But honestly, the combat was pretty much so easy that I was never in danger of dying. Same thing goes with food. I was never in a position where I was going to starve. Food is abundant. It's pretty much everywhere. You unlock different cooking recipes. When you start making the more complex foods, you end up getting to a point where you're making foods that can literally just keep you from getting hungry the entire day, as well as also give you other stats, bonuses. The biggest challenge, in my opinion, from the 4 different survival aspects is going to be the cold, managing your warmth. And I guess I could equate it to a game I think it will be most similar to that I've played. I know there's probably other games where you actually have to manage your warmth, but for me, it kind of felt like playing Subnautica. You can only go so far with your oxygen before you have to come back. In Winter Burrow, you have to decide how far away you can go before you're going to end up freezing to death. Because once your warmth meter drops down to 0, you'll start taking health damage. And in fact, I only died one time playing the game, and it was from this very thing. I end up, as I mentioned earlier, I'm directionally challenged. I got lost in a part of the map that I wasn't really familiar with, and I couldn't find my way back, and I ended up dying from just being too cold. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to manage your food, you'll have to manage your the clothing you have on. You can also, once you know where the NPCs are, the NPC areas will have, they'll give you warmth and fill you back up. There's also going to be campfires around the map that you can locate. You also be able to craft your own campfire. So there's many ways of mitigating it, but early on it's going to be the most challenging thing. And even towards the end of the game, as you're exploring further and further away from your home, you're going to have to make sure you're prepared for the cold. Lastly is going to be stamina. Stamina was rarely an issue, to be completely honest. Like with the combat, if you sit there and spam attacks, your stamina will run down, but then you'll also be taking damage. If you hit the enemy and back up and repeat that, you're not going to have an issue. You can sprint in the game, which will drain your stamina relatively quickly. But to be completely honest, I hardly sprinted at all. I had a perfectly fine time just walking around and only sprinting periodically. When you're chopping down trees or hitting rocks with your pickaxe, your stamina will drain. Sometimes you might run out, but as long as you're not just spamming it, you should be okay. So those are kind of the survival aspects. The game also does have farming. You can grow herbs and you can also grow mushrooms. I only did those to complete quests because there were quests involved with them. I honestly never needed to do it because, like I said, you can find tons of food around. But if it's something you want to do, you can certainly pursue that. So the overall gameplay loop is explore, gather resources, complete quests, upgrade your gear, and repeat. So how long can you, or how much time can you expect to get out of Winter Burrow? It took me just over 9 hours to 100% the game. I didn't rush, and like I said, I got lost many times. So for you, it may be a little bit shorter, it may be a little bit longer. Honestly, it really depends on how fast you want to progress the quest, how much you want to explore, how much you want to decorate your house. But I would say roughly for the average person, it's probably going to be somewhere between like 8 and 10 hours. And overall, it felt like it was the right length for the game. All right, so next let's talk about what I liked about the game. So first thing is going to be that you can craft all or craft many. What I mean by that is when you're going to the workbench, when you're knitting, when you're cooking, you can have the option of crafting things one at a time, or you can actually just craft all that you can possibly craft. And it takes the same amount of time. You can also craft from storage. This is a thing that I've always said every survival game nowadays should have. You're going to be able to put stuff in your storage in your house, and as long as it's in your storage in your house, you don't need to have it on your backpack. Obviously, if it's in your backpack, you can also use it. But as long as you have it in a storage chest in your house, you can use the workbench, you can cook at the oven, or you can knit without having to worry about having them in your inventory. Storage space was never an issue inside of my house. I never even came close to filling it up. And as you place down more pieces of furniture that have storage, you will have so much that you'll just never have to worry about it. Like I said earlier, there's no durability on your gear, even your clothing or your weapons, or your tools. So you'll never have to worry about repairing them. For me, I enjoy that. I know some people maybe don't, but for me, that's something I really like. I liked having to manage my warmth. It was the one part of the game that felt like it was the most challenging because I had to be mindful of how far away I could go, what I needed to bring with me. And it was like the one thing it was like the danger in the game, the tense part of the game, whereas the rest of the game just felt pretty cozy and overall like just not overbearing. I also mentioned that I like the fact there was no map. You might be asking, why would you say that if you're directionally challenged? I just thought it made the game overall more enjoyable. When you have a map in a game, or at least for me, I often find myself constantly opening the map. And while I was playing this, I kept going to my inventory thinking there was a map. And after an hour or so, I was like, there's no map. I got to stop doing this. And I had to remember where to go. So by the time you're finished playing the game, you'll just know exactly how to get where you need to go, how to get back, where the shortcuts are. And it just made the game overall just great. And then lastly, I felt like the game was just the right length. Like I said, it took me about 9 hours to finish it, and I enjoyed playing it all the way from the beginning to the very end. For me, I can't speak for everyone, but for me specifically, I'll oftentimes find myself playing a game and I might enjoy it for the first 5 hours, 10 hours or whatever. But a lot of times I'll do that and then I'll just get to a point where I just hit a wall. I'm like, I don't want to play this anymore. And then when I look and see how much there's left to go, I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to play another 10, 20, 30 hours. This game was short and sweet. It was great. It felt like it was just the right length, and progressing through it was just great all the way through. Next up, let's talk about what I disliked about the game. So first it's going to be there was not enough backpack space for most of the game. Whereas in your house, there was so much inventory space that you literally, like I said, would never run into an issue of running out of it. For most of the game, probably the first half to 3/4 of it, I felt like I was constantly leaving lots of resources on the ground. Now, you will over time get bigger backpacks that you can craft, as well as unlock inventory slots by finding the scrolls. So by the end of the game, it doesn't feel like it's an issue. You'll probably never fill your backpack all the way up. But early on and midway through the game, it just felt like there was not enough. Next is going to be the way that the quest and the main story progresses. And what I mean by that is I like the progression overall from beginning to the end. Like I said, I felt like it was the right amount of quest, the right amount of time for the game. But a couple of times I ran into a situation where I ended up getting stuck and didn't know what to do. And every one of those times, what I had to do was go talk to one of the NPCs. That's why I gave that tip at the very beginning. I was kind of vague about it, but if you get stuck, just talk to an NPC or talk to all of them, because that's most likely what's causing you from being able to progress. As I mentioned earlier, the combat was pretty basic. It was pretty easy. If that's a make or break thing for you, then that might be something that you want to consider. Overall, like I said, there was enough tension from the warmth mechanic that I enjoyed the game, although it would have been nice to have the combat be a little bit more challenging. And then lastly, it's going to be that you can't rebind your keys on mouse and keyboard. I played on mouse and keyboard. I don't know about controller, but there's no key rebindings. This is kind of like a minor gripe because to be completely honest with you, you really didn't need to do it, but there was a couple, like I would have liked to put my inventory on I instead of it being on C. So not a big deal, but just something to consider. So that's what I liked and disliked about Winter Burrow. As I mentioned in the intro, I recommend trying it out. It's on PC, it's on Xbox, you can play it on Game Pass, it's also on Nintendo Switch. So definitely it's worth checking out in my opinion. Once again, I want to thank Pine Creek Games for giving me the review key and allowing me to be honest in this review. If you found the video interesting, helpful, make sure to hit the like button. Consider subscribing for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.